My name's Rachel, I'm 26, and I live in a small town in Oregon called Brookpine. I moved into my boyfriend Tyler's house last year. He's 29, works in IT, and bought the place a few years ago. It's not fancy, just a one-story house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a basement. What makes it nice is the neighborhood, quiet, filled with trees, and tucked away in a spot where no other house faces ours directly. There's a short street with only about 8 houses total, and at the end is a little patch of woods. The weird stuff happened last fall, in October 2023. Tyler flew to Denver for his cousin's bachelor party and was gone from Thursday through Monday. It was the first time I'd been alone in the house for more than a day, but I figured I'd be fine. On Friday night, I invited a couple of my friends over for a chill movie night. We drank wine, watched some old scary movies, and joked about how cheesy they were. Around 10 p.m., we were halfway through a zombie flick when the doorbell rang. All of us jumped a little. You know that feeling when something happens at the exact wrong moment during a creepy movie? That was it. We paused the TV and stared at each other for a second. My friend Julie whispered, "You expecting anyone?" I wasn't. I went to the front door and looked through the tiny glass panel at the top. I couldn't see anyone. That part really bugged me because with all 4 cars in the driveway, it was clear the house wasn't empty. Whoever rang the bell had to know people were home. We waited quietly for a bit, then decided maybe it was just some dumb prank. The girls left around midnight and I went to bed not long after. I was just starting to fall asleep when the doorbell rang again. This time, it was 2 quick rings. I sat up, heart pounding. I looked at my phone. It was 1:03 a.m. I texted Tyler and then decided to call him. He answered, but I could tell right away he was at a loud bar and a bit tipsy. He stepped away from the noise and said, "Just stay in the room, don't open the door, probably nothing." He didn't say to call the cops, and I didn't want to overreact, so I stayed put. A little while later, I was lying in bed trying to calm down when I heard this clicking sound. It reminded me of someone tapping their fingernails against glass, fast, soft, steady. Then came a knock, not at the door, at my bedroom window. I froze. I didn't move an inch. Then came a man's voice. "Hey, anyone home? I need help." His voice was low and shaky. I was so scared I couldn't even breathe. Thank God the blinds were closed. He knocked again, louder this time. "I know you're in there," he said. That was it. I grabbed my phone and, still lying flat in bed, I called 911 and whispered everything to the dispatcher. I told them I thought someone was trying to break into my house. I didn't hear the man leave. For all I knew, he was still right outside the window. About 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again, then came knocking, loud, impatient. I crept up and asked who it was. A man said, "Police." The voice was different, and I peeked through the glass to see 2 officers. I let them in, but the taller one didn't wait to be invited. He just walked straight into the house. He wasn't very nice. Actually, he acted like I was wasting his time. He kept cutting me off and even told me to be quiet while I was trying to explain. His partner barely said a word and just stood behind him. I told them I didn't see the guy's face, just heard him. The tall cop rolled his eyes and said, "Well, you're the one who called." It was like he didn't care at all. They walked around the outside of the house with flashlights but didn't check very carefully. A few minutes later, they came back and said unless I had video or proof, there wasn't anything they could do. Then they left. I barely slept the rest of that night. I kept thinking I'd hear that voice again or the tapping. But eventually I drifted off and woke up to the sun coming through the blinds. It was Saturday. My friend Kara was throwing a Halloween party that night and I was helping her set up. The day passed pretty normally. I ran errands, got snacks for the party, and picked up a few last things for my costume. I was going as Daphne from Scooby-Doo. Kara was going as Velma. The party started at 9 and was packed by 10:30. I stayed until after 1 a.m., but I hadn't drunk much, so I felt fine driving home. When I got back, the house was quiet. I kicked off my boots, dropped my keys on the table, and noticed a cold breeze. It hit the back of my neck and made me shiver. I looked around and saw that the small kitchen window was wide open. That window has a crank handle. I always lock it. I shut it quickly, confused. Had I forgotten to close it? I went to brush my teeth, but when I walked out of the bathroom, I noticed something else. The basement door was open, wide open. I don't even remember walking to it. I just stood there staring at the black space below. That's when I heard it again, the clicking, like someone lightly tapping something metal. The sound came from deep down in the basement. I stepped closer just to listen. Then the clicking stopped, and a voice from the basement said, "You're finally home." I slammed the door shut and didn't even think about grabbing anything. I ran outside with my phone and banged on my neighbor's door until he answered. I told him what happened and called the cops again. It was the same 2 officers, but this time I had my neighbor with me, and that seemed to change the way the rude cop acted. He wasn't friendly, but he wasn't as pushy or cold either. They walked through the whole house. I showed them the basement and all the closets and spots someone could hide in. We didn't find anyone, but something had definitely been in there. I packed a bag and left that night to stay at my sister's place across town. I wasn't about to spend another second in that house alone. This time, before leaving, I double-checked every window. I locked each one and made sure the basement door was shut tight. Since then, I've never left a single window open unless we're home. And even then, I check them at least twice before bed. Tyler still lives here with me, but for a while I couldn't be alone in the house. I'd get panic attacks if I heard a creak or knock. Sometimes I still have nightmares. I dream I hear the clicking sound or that someone whispers to me through the window. One time I woke up and thought I saw someone standing in the hallway, but it was just a coat on a chair, or at least I think it was. So yeah, if you're reading this, please do one thing for me. Check your windows tonight. Lock them. Even the little ones. Especially the little ones. You never know who might be waiting outside. Hey. So, I've never really told anyone this before, at least not like this. My name's Jordan. This happened when I was 13, back in 2014. I live in a busy neighborhood in a city called Branton. Lots of apartments, shops, people out late. It's the kind of place where something's always going on. One weekend, my best friend Milo and I were bored out of our minds. His parents were out of town and mine were working a night shift, so we figured, why not hang out? I called him, and he said, "Let's meet at Northwood Park." It was like 1 a.m. We knew it was late, but we were dumb kids. We thought we were cool, sneaking out, being rebellious. So I threw on a hoodie, grabbed my phone, and headed out. The streets were quiet, too quiet. Usually there's people walking their dogs, late-night joggers, or folks heading home from bars. That night, nothing. Just empty sidewalks and flickering streetlights. When we got to the park, we started walking around the main path. There were no cars nearby, no people, not even birds or bugs. It was dead silent, like the whole world just paused. Milo had brought this little speaker, and he started playing these goofy sound effects from his phone. We were laughing, joking around, acting like idiots, just trying to kill time. But after a while, the fun started to fade. The deeper we walked into the park, the more off it felt. The trees were tall and thick, and the lamps barely lit the path. Shadows stretched out like long arms across the ground. Every little sound made me jump. A rustle in the leaves, the wind, pushing a swing, a creak from the old metal slide. Then we saw them. At first, we thought it was a statue or something. But as we got closer, we saw it was a group of people. Just standing there, not moving. Maybe 5 or 6 of them all bunched together near the old picnic tables. They looked wrong. They were all bald, wearing the same kind of dark bomber jackets and heavy black boots. They stood completely still, like mannequins. No talking, no movement. I whispered, "Dude, are they real?" Milo laughed nervously. "Just drunk guys, maybe?" But I wasn't laughing. Something felt off. And I know this is gonna sound weird, but I could feel them staring at us, like burning holes in the side of my face, and I got really scared because, well, I'm mixed, and I've heard stories about skinheads, Racist groups that go around hurting people who look like me. And these guys? They looked exactly like that. I tugged on Milo's arm. "We need to go." He looked confused. "Why?" "I'll explain. Later. Just now." But before we could move, one of them spoke. His voice was deep, rough, like gravel. "Hey kid, come over here." We froze. I didn't turn around. I didn't breathe. Then he shouted, louder this time. "Come over. Here, now." I looked at Milo. His eyes were wide, mouth half open. He was shaking his head slowly. Then we heard it. Footsteps. Fast ones. They were running at us. I yelled, "Run!" We took off. Full sprint. Our shoes slapped the pavement as we raced toward the park exit. I didn't look back, but I could hear them. Boots stomping the ground behind us, getting louder, closer. We hit the main road. Still empty, still dead silent. I spotted a little 24-hour cafe across the street and pointed. "There! Go!" We ran straight in, gasping, sweating, barely able to speak. The place was empty, not even a worker at the counter. "Where is everyone?" Milo whispered. "I don't know." We ducked behind a wall, crouched low, trying to catch our breath. My heart was pounding so loud I swear it echoed. I looked around for a bathroom, somewhere we could lock ourselves in. But the layout was weird, and we couldn't find one. Then we heard the door. It creaked open. Boots on tile. They were inside. Milo and I pressed ourselves into the corner, trying to disappear into the wall. My hands were shaking. I could feel sweat dripping down my back. Then one of them grabbed me. His hands were cold, wet, covered in something sticky. I screamed. Milo screamed. Another man grabbed him. We kicked and fought, but they were stronger. One of them leaned in close to my ear and hissed, "Shut up. You're coming with us." His breath smelled like old meat and cigarettes. I gagged. They dragged us outside, back into the night, back toward the park. I thought I was going to die. I closed my eyes and just started praying, saying anything I could think of. I could hear Milo crying. We didn't even talk. We were both too scared. And then, sirens, flashing, red and blue lights. The men froze. Then they ran. Just like that. Bolted into the dark, vanishing between trees like they were never there. The cops jumped out of their car, shouting and scanning the area. One of them ran up to us, asking if we were okay. I nodded, but I couldn't stop shaking. My throat was dry. I couldn't even speak. They took us home. My parents had just gotten back from work. When I told them what happened, my mom covered her mouth and started crying. My dad called the police right away, but they already knew. He knew. Later that night, 2 officers came to our door. They told us we were lucky. Real lucky. Those men had been stalking kids around the city for weeks. Some were chased. Others were taken. The police said the ones who didn't get away were found later. Some not at all. They said the group wasn't just dangerous, they were sadistic, torturers. My chest got tight. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't sleep for days after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces. Those pale, empty eyes and twisted grins. But here's the thing that haunts me the most. A week later, I went back to that cafe with my dad to try and get my phone back. I'd dropped it that night in the chaos. The guy behind the counter looked confused when we asked about that night. He said the cafe had been closed for cleaning, closed all night. No one was working. No one should have been there. And yet, the lights were on, the door was open, and those men still found us inside. Yeah, I still don't know what really happened that night. But sometimes, late at night, when I walk past that park, I swear I hear boots in the shadows, waiting for someone else to wander in.